All right, let's get this started. Let me see. It's gotten darker. In all honesty, we'll probably just turn this off and kind of manage for the rest of the night. I don't need too much light in here. Not to mention that light takes a lot of energy and causes this place to heat up incredibly fast. I don't need that right now. It is hot in here. Okay, let's go into this. Do a few things here. And then we'll go into it. Cannot lie. This is gonna be a quick one. I actually got things to do after this. But we are gonna get this done. Give me a second, guys, as I get set. And we can get things going. What am I looking for? There we go. There we go. Okay, I think we are good. Other than that, let me pull this up here. Yeah, that's what I need right now. There we go. All right. Welcome, 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 everybody. What's going on, everybody? I don't know why I'm saying welcome, welcome, welcome. I used to work a job where every time I was speaking, the first thing I'd have to say is like, welcome, 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 everybody. And it was not fun. But, yeah. What's going on, guys? Late night here. It is 10 o'clock at night, and I'm gonna keep it a bean. I got something I do have to take care of after this. Got a little bit of work to do after this. So I am not gonna waste y'all time. Let's go through this list. I want to hear some of y'all thoughts as well. We're gonna try to crank this out for about an hour, and then we'll call it a night. But I just wanted to briefly take a look at this 53-man roster and give my thoughts as well as get your thoughts. So welcome to everybody in the chat. Hope you guys are doing well. Happy Tuesday. If anyone even says happy Tuesday. Not gonna lie, time is going by fast, man. We are 9 days? And it's 11 o'clock, so it feels like 8 days. Getting real close to NFL football really being here. Week 1 is on the horizon, and we have to expedite that. So we are here today to talk about the 53-man roster. I made a video a little bit earlier today in regards to some of the surprises that showcased on the 53-man roster in terms of the individuals that made the team versus the individuals that were cut. And it was really interesting seeing how the Ravens chose to go about some of these things. Did not expect, there was at least one or two of these I was a little bit shocked by. So interesting as to how the Ravens went about their final cut, but it also makes sense because this was really tough. This was really tough. I will sit back and say this. This was really tough. Probably one of the toughest training camp cut downs the Ravens have had in quite some time because there was so much talent on this team. You know what? I think I'm gonna have the lights on. You know what? Nah, it's chill. It's nighttime. I don't need it. I'm gonna keep this off. But yeah, I think the cut downs here were actually pretty tough for the Ravens, given the fact that there was so much talent here. I think this is probably one of the most talented rosters we've had in franchise history. Actually, if we're gonna argue it from a talent perspective, from top to bottom, this might be the most talented roster the Ravens have ever had. I don't know if I would say that as a definitive statement, but when you look at the talent they have from top to bottom, from the starters to the depth pieces, they've got talent all around. The only thing that you would look at on this Ravens team and say is a weakness is the offensive line. I mean, you've got one of the best quarterbacks in the game, and honestly, if you've seen how Lamar's played over the last few years, even though we haven't won a Super Bowl, he's arguably been the best quarterback, at least in the regular season, over the last 2 years. So you've got one of the best quarterbacks in the game. When you look at the receiving core, I'm gonna be honest, this is a very, very talented receiving core. It's not going to be seen as the best, but it from a talent perspective, from top to bottom, from the amount of depth pieces, from product from a productive standpoint, let's put it like that. From a productive standpoint, when you look at the Ravens receiving core, I ain't gonna lie, man. this is easily the most talented receiving core we've had in franchise history. And when you compare it to the league, at the very Juju, you are right on time. We just got started. Welcome to everybody in the chat. We just got started. We're gonna be here for about an hour, so you're right on time. We just got started. We haven't even gotten into the list yet. I'm just giving my basic introductions right now. But yeah, from a talent perspective, the receiving core is easily the most talented receiving core we've had in franchise history. And when you compare it to the rest of the league, at the very, it's middle of the pack. It's middle of the pack. You could say this is a top 15 receiving core. Um, actually, shout out to my main man Sutton. I saw his tweet earlier on. He sat back and said, "I don't think you can name 10 teams that have a better receiving core than the Ravens." And honestly, from top to bottom, from a talent perspective, it's debatable. So again, there's no weakness with the quarterback. There's no weakness with the receiving core. The tight end core, again, you have the best tight end duo in football with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, and Charlie Kolar is on the rise as well. So you've got plenty of talent at the tight end position. You've got one of the two best. I'd say two. There's other fullbacks, but I mean, when we talk about fullbacks, there's only two fullbacks that stand out as the best of the best: Kyle Juszczyk and Patrick Ricard. So yeah, you got the best of the best at the fullback position as well. And from the running back position, you probably have the best running back room in football. You look between that one or Detroit's. Because with Eagles, I mean, Saquon, and then after that, it's not that much from a talent perspective, though they do have some talented back over there. But Saquon is heavily carrying. With Baltimore, again, you're going to have Derrick Henry, who also feels like he's heavily carrying. But Keaton Mitchell was a guy that really flashed when he was healthy, and the speed that he carries. And Justice Hill is very underrated in terms of productivity and being an all around back. He is very, very, very good. So honestly, offensively, from a skill position aspect, there's nothing to really be concerned with. From the offensive line perspective, that's where weakness would be for the Ravens. And then defensively, the secondary, you probably have the most talented secondary in football. So there's no issues there. There's no weaknesses there from the corners to the safeties. You got depth all around. The linebacking core is one to be a bit cautious of because of Trenton Simpson and in terms of how he's going to look. Because Roquan's there, Roquan's fine. But when you look at Trenton Simpson, who's going to play right next to him, that's where you have to be a little bit cautious because we saw him in that role last year early on and he didn't do well. However, it's a new season and he has a new opportunity to showcase how much he's grown. He spent a lot of time working out with Roquan Smith during the offseason, and we saw Trenton Simpson show up in the preseason. The final game of the preseason against the Commanders, that man did everything. What Trenton Simpson showed in the Commanders game, I know it's preseason, but if we can get that Trenton Simpson in the regular season and in the postseason, no one's gonna have any concerns. If the Trenton Simpson show that we saw in that Commanders game shows up for the season, you're fine. You are fine in that aspect. But other than that, there's some uncertainty with the linebacking core. And then when you look at the D line, there is a little bit of slight concerns there, though I think you have a lot of talent and potential. I think that's the aspect that you look at. But yeah, there's a lot of talent on that D line and a lot of potential. But I think that's the aspect that's concerning because you don't have proven guys. When you look at from the linebacking core to the D line, you've got some proven guys, obviously, but there's also guys that you do have a bit of a concern, and we'll talk about it when we actually get into the list. So I think for the most part, when you look at potential weaknesses for the Ravens, offensive line, defensive line, and the linebacking core will be the three aspects that you look at because everything else is flawless. You've got talent and depth all over the place, but those three aspects, you have talent, but there's a lot of unproven guys there. So again, it's gonna come down to how you produce in the games. But other than that, the Ravens are damn near perfect team. Honestly, from a roster perspective, they've got a top 5, maybe top 3 roster. You look at their roster, you look at Philadelphia, who, by the way, Philly probably has the best roster in football. You look at Detroit, another team that has one of the best rosters. The Ravens are within the top 3 to 5 rosters in the league from a talent perspective. There is virtually no weakness on this team from a talent perspective, but it's about producing in the game. So we'll see how that D-line holds up. There's a lot of potential there, a lot of unproven talent. But again, if that talent showcases itself and flourishes, this Ravens team will be unstoppable, quote unquote. There's no such thing as being unstoppable in the game of sports, but you'll be as dominant as you could possibly be. But yeah, that's just my basic takes on how the Ravens kind of put together this roster. Now let's actually speak on the roster itself, and let's actually go through said roster. Let me see if I can actually. Let me see. It wouldn't be. Do I have this up here? You know what? I can read it right here. I could honestly just move out the way and be like, here's our roster, guys. Here's how we're going to go through it. So as you can see behind here, this is our roster, but instead, I'm going to read off of it. So let's actually get into the discussion in regards to this roster. Who made the 53-man roster? Let's start with the offense. The Ravens, as expected, went with 2 quarterbacks. Nobody expected the Ravens to go with 3 quarterbacks, especially this year where you see that there's so much talent on the team that the Ravens have to find a way to keep a lot of these guys. So, Ravens keep 2 quarterbacks. Of course, Lamar Jackson being your franchise quarterback, face of the league, yada, yada, yada. Your backup quarterback is Cooper Rush, which was to be expected. Everybody expected the Ravens to keep Cooper Rush. Everybody expects the Ravens to keep Cooper Rush. That was not going to be debatable or a conversation at the end of the day. We all knew Devin Leary was going to be cut. That was the expectations. So nobody's surprised about that. Ravens keep 2 quarterbacks. That's within the expectations. Next up, Ravens keep 4 backs. Obviously, Patrick Ricard is your fullback that comes in, but they chose to keep 4 running backs. Of course, Derrick Henry being your starter, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, we know those guys were going to make it. But it was a bit surprising to see the Ravens choose to keep 4 backs. But Harbaugh was alluding to it in the press conferences over the last few weeks. Over the last 2 weeks, he's been alluding to the aspect of Rashid Ali making the 53-man roster. And here he is, Derrick Henry, Keaton Mitchell, Justice Hill, and Rashid Ali. All of them are your running backs for the 53-man roster here. Patrick Ricard obviously being your fullback. So that was pretty much solidified. No real surprises there. Then you get to the wide receiving core. And I spoke about this. We talked about this a few days ago. I think we had a stream where we discussed this too. We said the Ravens are going to keep 6 wide receivers. It's just how it's going to go. And we named the 6 wide receivers. We said there was a mild competition with a few other individuals and they had to prove themselves. But we knew what the 5 receivers were going to be. We just needed to see if Western would make it. And obviously he did. No surprises here with the wide receiver core. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, Tylan Wallace, Devontae Walker, LaJohntay Wester. Those are the 6 receivers that made the 53-man roster. Nobody surprised. Once again, there's no surprises here. The expectations as to who was going to make the roster for the receiving corps is pretty much there. We did have a conversation in regards to guys who do we also talk about? Keith Kirkwood. Like if he would have a chance or an opportunity, if you think he has a real good shot, because he was making a lot of plays throughout training camp. But we knew at the end of the day it was going to be these 6 receivers. So once again, nothing really surprising here on the 53-man roster in terms of the receivers. So 2 quarterbacks was expected, 4 running backs. We pretty much got that from Harbaugh that it was going to be that case. So we expected Ali. We were just waiting to see it. 6 wide receivers, that was also to be expected. Next with the tight ends. This was to be expected, but it was also a bit of good news. It was a bit surprising, but it was great news in general. Not a bit of good news, a lot of great news. The Ravens kept 3 tight ends here for the 53-man roster. They kept 3 tight ends. Now, the reason why this is so surprising and fantastic news that they kept 3 tight ends is because normally they'd keep 3 tight ends. But the fact of the matter is, as you can see, let me see if I can point to it right here. Look at it. Let me go right here. As you can see right here, which I don't even know how clear it'd be, Isaiah Likely is on the 53-man roster. I talked about this in my video earlier on. Isaiah Likely made the 53-man roster. That means he will not be going on IR. This is huge. So he's not going to be missing the first 4 games of the regular season. He will not be placed on IR. And since he's not, at least as of right now, at least him not being on IR means that he could be coming back at any point between week 1 and 3. Now, him being on this list really boosts the possibility that he's going to play week 1. Isaiah Likely making the 53-man roster instead of being put on IR gives us a great indicator that Isaiah Likely is on track to potentially play week 1 against the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if that is going to ultimately end up being the case. I still think it's possible he doesn't play week 1, but, pulls up and plays week 2 against the Browns or week 3 against Detroit. It could happen that way, but we'll see. The expectations, or at least the timetable that we were initially given when he suffered that injury and had surgery, the timetable was he'd be back for week 1. And here we are getting ready to head into week 1. Isaiah Likely is not being put on IR. He's on the 53-man roster. The chances of him playing week 1 has dramatically risen. All that's left is to see him practice. So Monday is going to be an important day. Monday is going to be the determining factor as to whether or not Isaiah Likely is going to play. Matter of fact, I talked about this about Jaire Alexander. That's the same situation here. Jaire Alexander, Isaiah Likely, those two individuals need to practice on Monday if they're going to play on that week 1 game against Buffalo. If Jaire Alexander and Isaiah Likely don't practice on Monday, me personally, I'm assuming they're not going to play against the Bills, because I feel like you want to give them at least 3 days of practice to prepare. So if they're on the practice field Monday, they have a high chance to play against the Bills on Sunday Night Football. If they're not practicing on Monday, do not expect Jaire or Isaiah Likely to be out there. It'd be rare, but I would not expect either one of them to be out there if they don't practice on Monday. So yeah, Jaire Alexander, we got to see how that goes. And Isaiah Likely not being put on IR. They both got chances to play week 1, but they got to practice on Monday. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kolar, Mark Andrews, all three of them making the list here for the 53-man roster as to be expected. Nobody's surprised there. It's just great news to see that Isaiah Likely will not be put on IR, so he has a shot to be back week 1. Also, Mark Andrews is kind of going through something as well, so hopefully he'll be back next week so he could be prepared to play against the Buffalo Bills come week 1. So we'll see how that goes. Next up is the offensive line, and this is where things get to be interesting. We do have to mention this in terms of a certain individual that's missing on the list here, and there's a big reason as to why he's not on the list, which we'll speak on it once we get through this. So offensive line, the Ravens chose, they kept 9 this time. Did they get 9 or 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they kept 9. The Ravens went with 9 offensive linemen to be expected. 9 offensive linemen. Tyler Linderbaum, Ben Cleveland, Corey Bullock, which again was a bit surprising. Did not expect to see them keep him here, but he had done a well enough job throughout the preseason for them to at least want to give him a chance. Joseph Noteboom, Roger Rosengarten, Carson Vincent, man. There was a film breakdown about Carson Vincent in terms of what he was doing in the preseason. That guy is actually doing a damn good job. So him making it as well is great. So Carson Vincent, Andrew Voorhees, Daniel Falele, and then Ronnie Stanley. So you've got your 9 right here. 9 offensive linemen. 9 offensive linemen. We also got one individual that is not going to be on the roster. He is going to go to the reserve/non-football injury list, Emory Jones. That's the individual I was talking about. Emory Jones, obviously not on the 53-man roster. He's going to go on the reserve non-football injury list because he has not practiced at all. He did not participate in training camp because he had suffered that injury. In fact, I don't remember if he actually participated. No, I don't think he participated. Maybe he did it early on or just didn't participate in OTAs. But Emory Jones, the hope and belief was that he'd be ready to at least be back for training camp and potentially be out there to start the regular season. But it just seems like things didn't work out that way. So he's going to start on the reserve / non-football injury list. So that's how it's going to go. But the Ravens chose to keep 9 offensive linemen. Some quality guys here, but of course, you're starting offensive lineman. Vincent, I'm telling you, the film out there on him was great. He's doing a great job blocking. I really like Vincent, so I'm glad he made it. And Bullock was a surprise as well. But yeah, they're keeping 9 offensive linemen, and we already know the starting offensive line. Ronnie Stanley as your left tackle, Andrew Voorhees as your left guard, Tyler Linderbaum as your center, Daniel Falele as your right guard, and Roger Rosengarten as your right tackle. So that is your starting offensive lineman. You will have backups through and through there, and when Emory Jones is ever able to get back out there, he will at some point get back on he'll at some point get on the 53-man roster because they'll try to get him out there if they do need him. But yeah, so that basically wraps up the offense for the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, tight ends, and the offensive line. In all honesty, that was easy. Not even gonna lie. The Ravens did not have difficulty in really cutting down the offensive aspect of the roster. I don't think they had any problems with that. I think it was very clear and simple as to where they were going to go there. There wasn't a lot of surprises. There wasn't a lot of difficult decisions that had to be made from the offensive standpoint. The problem and the issues and the difficulties came with the defensive side because they had so much defensive talent that some of these guys just had to get cut. And we'll name some of these players that got cut at the end of this. But it was unfortunate. The Ravens had to make some tough calls, and ultimately it led to the roster being what it is. So let's flip to the defensive side because this is where the toughness really starts to happen. Let's start with the defensive line, which, by the way, is relatively thin. I will not lie. Like I said earlier on, that is an aspect when you have some mild concerns. So for the D-line, you have John Jenkins, Nnamdi Madubuike, Aeneas Peebles, Broderick Washington, and Travis Jones. Travis Jones is ready to take over. I cannot wait to see that guy out there. He looks like he's ready to have a big season. Aeneas Peebles still got some work to do, but he's showing a lot of flash. Nnamdi Madubuike, we know what he's capable of. Broderick Washington's solid. John Jenkins, we'll see what he does as well. Again, this is probably one of the aspects that you look at. What's going on, Josh? This is one of the aspects where you look at and say, not the strongest D-line, not the strongest D-line room out there. It's kind of a thin in some cases, and you do have a little bit of concerns from that aspect. But still, again, Travis Jones expecting to have a big year. Nnamdi Madubuike is always going to be a problem. You hope to see something from Peebles and hope he continues to develop. Broderick Washington's solid. John Jenkins, we'll see what he can do. So that's your D-line there. Here comes some interesting stuff here. These next two is where everything goes up in the air, man. Everything goes up in the air, and this is where they made the toughest decisions. The linebacking core. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They kept 10 linebackers here. Let's read off the list and see if you notice something here. Roquan Smith, Trenton Simpson, Jake Hummel, Teddy Buchanan, Mike Green, Jay Higgins, Kyle Van Noy, David Ojabo, Tavius Robinson, Odafe Owe. Those are the 10 linebackers the Ravens chose to keep here. This has all of us excited. This has all of us eccentric because everybody was hoping. Everybody was pleading. If you were on Twitter, everybody was sitting back and pleading with the Ravens. No matter what it takes, you have got to make sure that Jay Higgins is on this roster. He has to be here. There's no way you don't let Jay Higgins on this 53-man roster. If you let him go to the practice squad, he will be picked up. The Ravens made the right choice. The Ravens made the correct choice. Jay Higgins balled out in the preseason. Jay Higgins was fantastic in the preseason. Matter of fact, Jay Higgins was actually, according to PFF, Jay Higgins was the highest graded rookie linebacker. From the 2025 preseason, Jay Higgins was the highest rated rookie linebacker. I want to repeat this again. In the 2025 preseason that we just finished up, Jay Higgins was the highest rated rookie linebacker. Undrafted free agent. He was the highest rated rookie linebacker. There's no way in hell the Ravens could have afforded to not put him on this roster. People still have concerns about Trenton Simpson. People still have some concerns about Trenton Simpson. Teddy Buchanan has been solid, but hasn't been eye-popping. Jay Higgins has arguably been the best defensive player for the Ravens throughout this preseason. There is no way they could have allowed this guy to step into that practice squad and assume he was going to stay there. He had to make the 53-man roster. So it's great to see our first undrafted free agent make the roster. The first undrafted free agent for this season makes the roster. That is fantastic. Other things to mention here. David Ojabo made the 53-man roster. We do not expect to see him here much longer. But again, I hope he continues to add to what he did in the preseason, because David Ojabo was really nice in the preseason. He's made some good strides. We hope to see more of that from him. Odafe always expected to have a career year. He's going to go off, especially because he's in a contract year. It was great to see Jake Hummel make the roster as well. We expected Teddy Buchanan and Mike Green, obviously, they were going to be on the roster as well. Roquan Smith, Trent Simpson, those are going to be your starting linebackers, obviously. You still got Kyle Van Noy, who's going to be on that edge, being a pass rusher and stuff. So, again, when you look at this linebacker room is filled with depth, but it's also filled with a lot of potential and uncertainty, because a lot of these guys, when you're taking a look at it, you don't know what you're going to get from them come regular season. When you're looking at Jake Hummel, when you're looking at Teddy Buchanan, when you're looking at Mike Green, when you're looking at Jay Higgins, you're not fully sure what they're going to do come regular season. But we'll have to wait and see. The talent is insane. The potential is high. But you've got to go out there and produce come week 1 and beyond. So we'll see how these guys manage as the season goes on. But there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of talent. It's all about proving yourself on the field come week 1. Next up, and pretty much to end things off here, we got one more after that, but pretty much to end things off here, the defensive backs. Again, keep track of who we are calling out, because there are some surprises once again. The biggest shock of the day for Ravens flock was with the defensive backs. So, I think they kept 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, they kept 10. They kept 10 linebackers and 10 defensive backs. Here are the 10 defensive backs the Ravens chose to keep for this 53-man roster for the 2025 NFL season. Nate Wiggins, Chidobe Awuzie, Kyle Hamilton, Sanosi Kane, Jair Alexander, Malachi Starks, TJ Tampa, Ruben Lowry, Keon Martin, Marlon Humphrey. Those are the 10 names that they chose to keep. There's two things that pop out when you look at the defensive backs that they chose to keep here. There's two things that pop out. They made it. They made it. They actually made it. We sat here and said all three of them should make it. They made it. They made it. The three best defensive players for the Ravens from this preseason, all undrafted, made it. Jay Higgins, Ruben Lowry, Keon Martin, all three of these guys made the 53-man roster. We sat here and talked about it and said each and every one of these three guys did everything right and did more than enough to make this roster. We know they're undrafted free agents, but they did more than enough in training camp and in the preseason to earn a roster spot. And here we are today. They all made the list. It's not often you're able to get some quality talent from the undrafted free agent aspect. But for us to get three really quality, really high quality defensive players that showed out throughout the preseason and training camp, to get those three guys, all three undrafted free agents, and to have them make the 53-man roster, that is huge. So congratulations to those guys. You guys have been balling out. We've been sitting here discussing it all throughout training camp. We've mentioned Ruben Lowry. We've mentioned Keon Martin. We've mentioned Jay Higgins. We watched the preseason games. Jay Higgins making plays. Ruben Lowry making plays. Keon Martin making plays. They're all making plays. They're making plays in practice. They're making plays in the preseason game. They're showing out. Those three guys were the best defensive players. The best defensive players the Ravens had out there for the preseason game were those three guys. And we all said they should make the roster. And here we are. All three of those guys made the roster. So congratulations to those three. That is the first aspect that pops out when you see that list. The second aspect that pops out is there's some missing names. The shock of the day. Beau Brade. And most importantly, Jalyn Armour-Davis. Both of them were cut by the team today. They did not make the 53-man roster. They did not make the 53-man roster. Jalyn Armour-Davis and Beau Brade did not make the 53-man roster. That's a bit of a shocker. That is a bit of a shocker. Matter of fact, we've got some shocking aspects to look at here. It's not completely shocking. It was expected, but man, they let go of some guys. So just naming it, these are some of the individuals they released. Myles Gaskins and D'Ernest Johnson, those two were expected to be released. We knew that was going to be the case. The Ravens were keeping 4 backs. One of those two will probably make the practice squad because they're going to always want to keep an extra back. I'm probably looking at D'Ernest Johnson and saying he's going to be the back that ends up staying in the practice squad. So they released Myles Gaskins and D'Ernest Johnson. Next up, Anthony Miller and Keith Kirkwood. I'm not going to lie. I was a bit surprised. I was minorly surprised to see that Anthony Miller did not make the roster, but at the same time, he's been back and forth throughout the, he's been back and forth on the practice squad, so it's not surprising. He'll just go back there, and then he'll come up again if he's needed, or if someone picks him up on another team, he'll just go there. But yeah, Myles Gaskins, D'Ernest Johnson, Anthony Miller, and Keith Kirkwood, they were cut. And then you get Beau Brade and Jalyn Armour-Davis that were also part of the cutting, like we just said. Wow, that was also a shocker. That was a shocker. Real shocker. Did not expect Jalyn Armour-Davis to be cut. Beau Brade, that one was debatable, but Jalyn Armour-Davis, man, he's been relatively healthy. He had that moment where he was nicked up, but he was still relatively fine. But he's been pretty much healthy throughout training camp, throughout the preseason. He's played in these preseason games. He's shown out. He's played very well. Other than the three names I mentioned, Armour-Davis has been up there making plays and being great in the preseason. So I was a bit surprised to see that they would cut Armour-Davis. But again, I understand it. For one, Armour-Davis, despite all the talent he has, which he has a lot of talent, despite the talent he has, he's been on IR way too many times. He's been on the IR multiple times early on in his career. He's been injury prone. He has an injury history. And the Ravens aren't really looking to deal with that, knowing the roster they have. Let's be real, guys. Two of our main starters or two of our main guys are injury prone. You got to deal with Jair Alexander and his knee situation. You've got to deal with Chidobe Awuzie that's going to get nicked up here and there. So you've got injuries right there. You got two guys of your main unit that have an injury history. So you're going to need depth. And it wouldn't be beneficial to keep a guy that, even though he's great and talented, he's also dealing with injuries. You wouldn't want to have that in your depth as well. But, you know, it's unfortunate. Even with these injuries, I still thought he would end up making the roster because despite the injury history, he's damn good when he's on the field. And he was great in the preseason. He'll probably, have a shot to make the practice squad. But this guy's good enough to go be on any other roster. And I'm telling you right now, teams are waiting for him to clear waivers so they could try to go after him. I do not see Jalyn Armour-Davis making our practice squad. And even if he makes our practice squad, there's no way he's going to stay there long enough. Armour-Davis is going to be picked up by someone. He's way too talented. If it wasn't for the injuries, he'd be on this roster. It's unfortunate. We've had some great talent that's come and gone from Baltimore because they just can't stay healthy. It's unfortunate, but yeah, that's just how it is. But Armour-Davis was the biggest shocker there. Beau Brade, not that much of a shocker. And then Brent Urban, they brought him back. They signed him for training camp. and you were hopeful that he would you were hopeful that he'd be able to, be a part of this 53-man roster. You weren't entirely sure, but you were hopeful that he would make this 53-man roster. But unfortunately for him, that's just not how things kind of turned out for him. Unfortunately for him, things kind of just went a little bit differently. But I don't think it's too much of a shock with when it comes to Brent Urban not making the 53-man roster. He's going to be on the practice squad, and they'll be sure to bring him up whenever he's needed. So that's pretty much that aspect. That pretty much makes up the roster. Last but not least, you've got our main guys on the special team. Jordan Stout as your punter, Tyler Loop as your kicker, Nick Moore as your snap holder. So yeah, that's pretty much it for special teams. Obviously, Tyler Loop won the kicking job weeks ago, and in the preseason, he has checked off all the marks throughout training camp. He has checked off all the boxes. He looks ready to go. That's our guy moving forward. To end things off, a few things here. Emory Jones, like I said, he's on the reserve non-football injury. Isaiah Likely's not going to go on IR. He is on the 53-man roster, like we said early on. But Adisa Isaac, he's going to be going on the injury reserve. Obviously, we know he suffered an injury. He is expected to return at some point, but he's going to be out for some time. So yeah, Adisa Isaac's going to go on IR. Emory Jones also going to go on the reserve non-football list. And last but not least, he's not on the roster, but of course, I mean, he's on the 50-man roster, but of course, they did say there was a possibility that he could come back. So he's going to go on the reserve / physically unable to perform. I am, of course, talking about the man himself, Ardarius Washington. You ain't seen much Ardarius Washington because he is trying to recover. Ardarius Washington had suffered that injury while training early on during the offseason, so it was expected that he would not be able to play this season. However, based on the reports that we got way back then, it's possible that he could potentially be back by November, like late November, early December. So the possibility that we do see Ardarius Washington is still there. So Ardarius Washington, he's going to be on the physically unable to perform list, but it's possible if he's good to go and he's healthy, you see him training, you see him back out there training and practicing and eventually gets to join team practices, there's a possibility we could end up seeing Ardarius Washington play football this season, but I'm not too high on that in terms of seeing that happen. If it does, fantastic recovery from him, and hopefully he'll be able to come out here and make an impact the same way he did in 2024. Anyway, that pretty much makes up the 53-man roster that I wanted to talk about here. I'm getting ready to head out, but I want to see some of your comments and questions in regards to how you guys are seeing things, and then we're going to head on out of here. So yeah, what's going on, Daniel? What's going on, Dome Life Baltimore? Jeremiah was good. Was the best of luck to Jalen Armour Davis in his future endeavors. It's a bit disappointing to let him go, but I can understand why. Martin Lowry and Higgins were too good to let go. Absolutely. It'd be cool if you could end up on the practice squad, but he's not going to end up on the practice squad. Somebody's going to give him an opportunity. There's teams that need corners right now, and he will get a shot somewhere else. Travis Jones finna ball out this season. That man has been a monster. He looks ready to go. O-line, linebacking core, and D-line scare me. Yeah, there's some aspects there. What's going on, Chaos? D-line seems a little thin. Linebackers full of unproven guys. O-line has depth issues and guard spots are in question. There are some question marks with the Ravens. They're not a perfect team, but they do have the talent to be able to get through all of this. We just got to hope they can execute on the field. People's making it shocking. I didn't think he was ready yet, but his motor is too much to pass up on. He's had his moments here throughout the preseason, so I fully believe he was going to make the roster. They really like Peoples and what he can bring to the table. I like Peoples as well in terms of what he can bring to the table. So I'm glad he made the roster as well. He could continue to develop, but it's just he showed some good stuff throughout he showed some good stuff throughout training camp and a few good things throughout the preseason games. So it's good to see Peoples on the list. Why did Lamar make he didn't play? Man, I don't know. How did all these starters make it, man? None of them played. Cooper Rush, QB1. That's crazy. Devin Leary, QB1. I mean, he can be QB1 in a high school game or a college game. No, even then, he's past that. No one's going to put him as a high school quarterback or college quarterback. I don't know. Maybe it's time to be a defensive coordinator at his old college or something like that. I don't know. He'll probably get an opportunity somewhere else. I don't know. Drop Drews, wet hand Drews. Yeah, Mark Andrews ain't gonna live that down unless he catches the game-winning touchdown to win the Super Bowl. We know how that works. Vincent looks like a steal. Yeah, he looks great. He looks great. Yeah, Armour Davis being cut is a shocker. I thought Armour Davis played better than Tampa. I think it's debatable. I think for the most part, it was relatively even between Tampa and Armour Davis. I think it was relatively even. Honestly, I think TJ Tampa made a bit more plays in training camp as opposed to Armour Davis, but Armour Davis showed up a little bit more in these preseason games and showed out a little bit more in these preseason games than TJ Tampa. So because of that, I felt both of them would have made the roster, but it is what it is. And TJ Tampa, I mean, they like what they're seeing from him. Again, he has the intangibles, he has the physicality and the size to be able to be a problem. So they like what TJ Tampa brings to the table. And obviously, Tampa was going to make the roster. They weren't going to be like, oh, it's between Armour Davis and TJ Tampa. The reason Armour Davis ends up getting cut is because they had to make room for the three undrafted guys they brought in. So it was either they were keeping Armour Davis or they were going to keep Keon Martin. And Keon Martin's been showing up all throughout training camp and the preseason. They couldn't give him up. So yeah, Armour Davis ended up being the odd man out on this one. Expecting great things from Ojabo. We'll see what he does, man. I don't know if he's going to shine in the regular season. I don't know how much he's going to showcase there. Everybody's ready to just see Mike Green go out there and explode. So we'll see how that goes. We will see how that goes. Hummer will be on special teams, most likely. Lamar got a lot of protection for 9 offensive linemen. Well, it depends on how these guys perform. The question and the concerns that all of Ravens flock have in regards to the offensive line is the guard play. Nobody's concerned about Ronnie Stanley. Nobody's concerned about Tyler Linderbaum. No one's concerned about Roger Rosengarten. The only concern about Tyler Linderbaum is how much is he going to get paid, because they're not paying him 20 million, and no one wants to give up 20 million. Didn't Creed Humphrey get like 18? They're not paying Tyler Linderbaum 20 million. So that's the only concern anyone has about Tyler Linderbaum. Other than that, in terms of on the field production, no one's concerned about Tyler Linderbaum. And Roger Rosengarten proved himself, so no one's majorly concerned about Roger Rosengarten heading into the season. It's the guard play that is the concern. When you look at Andrew Voorhees, which again, he's had some good moments, he's had some bad moments. There's some good flashes with him, and there's some moments where he could have been better, but he's been good enough for Ravens flock to at least believe he's going to take that next step. And then Faalele, who's been public enemy number one for Ravens flock right now in terms of players, in which people want him gone and they fear he's going to get Lamar compromised. Let's put it like that. They still believe he's the one that stepped on Lamar's foot. We never got a report for that, and we're never going to get a report for that. They cannot let that come out. So yeah, that's just how it is. Jay Higgins for president is crazy. Harbaugh likes both Faalele and Lamar. I mean, I would assume you like. I would assume you would like your franchise quarterback, and I would assume you would want to do everything in your power to make sure your franchise quarterback is protected. So yeah, I'm glad Harbaugh likes Lamar. We all like Lamar too. I hope the city of Baltimore loves Lamar. I hope the franchise loves Lamar. I'm pretty sure the fan base would also like Lamar as well. So I'm glad to see our head coach likes him as well. But with Faalele, that one actually people have some issues with that one. But again, season's here. If it's either Faalele steps up or they have to do what's right by the team and just bench him for somebody else. So if Faalele is not producing and he's just looking like a mess, they have to go with someone else. They can't risk, compromising the season just to let Faalele continue to play. If he's looking bad out there consistently, you've got to go to somebody else. You've got a 9 offensive lineman. You can make that switch. Has Faalele improved? Bro has been terrible since he's been in the league. He's improved, but again, it's not about the improvement that people want to see. People want to see consistency. Obviously, improvement plays a role in you gaining consistency, but people want to see him great now because this team is in win now mode. Faalele is a guard that is improving and developing, but no one wants to hear development when you're a Super Bowl contending team, when you're a Super Bowl caliber team. When people are picking you as the favorites to come out the AFC, when people are picking you as the favorites to go win the Super Bowl, nobody wants to hear about a developmental guard that is improving. We need top protection for our quarterback if we want to get to where we want to get to. But that's just how it is. But yeah, in terms of in answer to your question, is Faalele improved? Yeah, he's improved. The only question about him is, can he stay consistent? We need a lot more consistency from him and a lot less that horrible play we saw when he got bulldozed. So we need to see more consistency from him, and if we see that, everything is all cool. Larry better not even get a practice. He's not getting on the practice squad. I don't think that'd be the case. If they were to want to get a third quarterback, again, we just saw Tyler Huntley just got released by the Browns. That would be my guy I would look towards. There's a few other guys too who just got. There were a few quarterbacks that got released that I would sit back and say the Ravens could look to bring in as a third guy. But I'll have to check that out. I'm not exactly fully sure about the quarterbacks that got released. But yeah, they're probably gonna have a third quarterback on that practice squad aspect, and I'm hoping to God it's not Larry. He's shown you that he's not it. Just move on. Just move on. Record prediction, Juju, you're gonna have to wait on that. I have some videos coming up. I gotta make my record predictions for all the divisions. I got to probably make my playoff predictions in terms of how I think the in terms of how I think the playoffs are going to look for the AFC and NFC, and then I will make my separate specific video in regards to breaking down each and every game, and talk about how I think the game is going to go for it. So I may do the Ravens record prediction first, then I'll do the divisions from the AFC North, South, East, West, NFC North, South, East, West, and then I'll do my I'll do those predictions, and then I'll do my picks of playoff teams. So yeah, we got a couple things coming up. We still got time before week 1 hits up, so we got to get those out as soon as possible. So be on the lookout within the next coming days. You will see my record prediction for the Ravens. I'm not going to say it here. I'm still decisive. I'm still indecisive, not decisive. I'm still indecisive as to where I want to fully put them. I know they're going to lose some games, and I know exactly how things are going to go. So I'm trying to pick where I'm going to have their records stand. I was on point last year with my prediction. I picked 12-5, and I actually picked the games that they would lose. The only game I was off on, I didn't expect them to lose to the Raiders, and I didn't expect them to sweep the Bengals. That 5th loss was supposed to be to the Bengals, but I did not expect that to be the case. I had us beating the Raiders. I had us losing one of those 2 matchups to the Cincinnati Bengals. I had us at 12-5 last year. I was right on my prediction. I said 12-5, winning the division, probably losing the division round to the Bills or Chiefs. And that happened verbatim. And I hate that's the case. That's what pisses me off sometimes about the Ravens. I can predict what's going to happen to a T, and it ends up happening. I hate that. That's why sometimes I don't even like making playoff predictions, because I know how things are going to go, man. I said it last year, 12-5, winning the division, losing in the division round to the Bills or Chiefs because the Ravens are going to show us that they haven't changed. I'm hopeful that that won't happen this year, but we'll have to wait and see. I hate that happened last year and I was on point. So, you know what? If I was on point last year, I'm going to hope that my powers will be able to put us in this. I'm not picking us to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not picking anybody to go to the Super Bowl. I don't make Super Bowl picks until the playoff teams are solidified. So, yeah, I'm not here to do that. I didn't pick a Super Bowl team. I didn't pick any Super Bowl team other than just saying the generic Chiefs are going to win every year. I didn't actually have a Super Bowl pick last year until the playoffs started. And I don't remember what I had for the playoffs. God, I think I ultimately, I think I ultimately said Eagles. I said, my predictions are out there somewhere. I said my biased prediction was Ravens Commanders because I wanted that to happen, and honestly, there was a shot that could have happened if Baltimore doesn't blow it against Buffalo, and then the Commanders don't just decide to turn the ball over in Philadelphia. But that's a different conversation for a different time. Anyway, I'm not going to do anything in regards to talking about Super Bowl picks. I have no picks to start the year. I don't do Super Bowl picks until the playoffs start. Then we could talk about those Super Bowl predictions and stuff. But, it is what it is at the end of the day. Harbaugh loves Leary. Do not bring him back. Yeah, Leary was not it. He was awful. Cooper Rush is him. I mean, he was him in Dallas. Refs going to make sure the Chiefs win. People already talking about the refs getting started with that nonsense when we saw the Chiefs in that preseason game. I think it was last week's preseason game. Remember the preseason game before? No, we didn't keep Leary. We did not keep Leary. Leary did not make the roster. When he's talking about keeping Leary, he's talking about adding him to the practice squad. C775, he's talking about adding Leary. We did not. He's not on the roster. He's on the 53-man roster. He was cut. When he's talking about keeping Larry, he's talking about adding him to the practice squad because the Ravens are going to have a third quarterback, so they're going to try to add someone to the practice squad. I'm saying don't add him to the practice squad. Go get someone else. Bring back Tyler Huntley for all I care, but do not add Larry to the practice squad. I'd still go with 12-5, honestly, but I will not be surprised at all if they get higher than that. I see their floor no lower than 9-8, and their ceiling maybe 14-3. Honestly, the only way the Ravens would have a floor of 9-8 is if Lamar's not on the field. I don't think Lamar's had, like, when Lamar has played the majority of the season, he's won at least 10 games. I think the lowest games Lamar has won in the season where he's pretty much been there from start to finish was 2020 when the team went 11-5. So Lamar full season has not won fewer than 11 games. The 2 years he was compromised, we won 8 games. I think it was 7 games and 8 games that we won with him. So I don't think our floor would ever be 9-8 if Lamar plays. Yeah, Western made it. LeJohntay Western made the 53-man roster. The 6 receivers the Ravens chose to keep: Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, Tylan Wallace, Devontae Walker, and LeJohntay Western. So yeah, Western did make the 53-man roster. But yeah, I could never put us at 9-8 if Lamar's on the field, because he's never had a season where he's had under 10 wins when he's played the whole year. The 2 years he was out at the end of the year due to injuries, he had 7 wins and 8 wins, and there was still like 5 or 6 games left to go. So Baltimore usually gets to 10 wins with Lamar under center. Well, based on the aspect, he usually gets to 11 wins. Lamar's record so far from a year-to-year basis: 2018, 6-1 because he only played 7 games. 2019, it was 13. It was 12-4. It was 12-4. It was 12-4. We went 13-4 that year, but Lamar didn't play the final game, so 12-4. So 6-1, 12-4, 11-4, because the one loss that we had, RG3 played that game. That was against the Steelers during the COVID game. So his records were 6-1, 12-4, 11-4. 2021, it was 7-3. 7-3/7-4, because I think they chose to count that loss against the Browns on him because he played the first quarter, and that's just weird how they put that on that. So it's either 7-3 or 7-4, and of course there was one game where Tyler Huntley did play, and we beat the Bears that year. And then 2022 he was 7-4. 2023 he was 13-2. No, sorry, 13-3. He was 13-3, and we finished the season 13-4 because we lost that last game to the Steelers. And then last year he was 12-5. So Lamar's win total is usually around 11 or 12. He doesn't. Our floor will never be 9-8 if Lamar plays a full season. We're gonna get double-digit wins every year when Lamar is the starter. So at the very least, I would have our floor around 10-7, and I would have our ceiling around 14-3, maybe 15-2. The Ravens are really on it. Well, Lamar, he's never had a season where he's had under 10 wins where he's played the whole season. And the 2 times he has, well, there's been 3 times where he has had under 10 wins. His rookie year when he only started 7 games, and then the 2 years he was injured and he had 7 and 8 wins with like 5 or 6 games left to go, and he was probably gonna get 10 wins anyway. So yeah, with Lamar, we just don't lose a lot of games. In fact, we haven't been blown out since the Bengals game in 2021. The Bengals game in 2020, I think that was week 9 or week 11 of the 2021 season when Cincinnati came to Baltimore and we got blown out. The only win Joe Burrow has against Lamar Jackson. That is the last time we've gotten blown out with Lamar Jackson under center. We don't get blown out a lot. We do not get blown out a lot. That's just not what happens. The only thing I care about is getting. Oh, the only things things care about is getting Archie Manning and getting Mickey Loomis fired, because I believe they're going to have back-to-back winless seasons. I mean, potentially. I don't know. Everyone keeps talking about getting Arch Manning. Are we fully sure he's gonna be in the draft next year? Are we fully sure he's gonna be in the draft? That's all I'm saying. We about to, dude, Chaos. I'm not even concerned about it. All I said was congrats. I could care less about celebrities getting engaged. I don't care about that. That's their whole thing. Congratulations though, but that's nothing to do with me. I don't think the Chiefs going to get a lot of calls this year. I don't think the Chiefs are going to get a lot of calls. This year's cast for the referees got fired. I mean, that's cool. You can always bring new referees, but I mean, the league is a league. So, they can always change things up. But I'm not really here to complain about calls and stuff. There's 60 minutes of football to be played. If you dominate a team, it doesn't matter how many calls they get. Super Bowl 59 MVP Lamar Jackson beating Mahomes and Spags. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about, Wolf. I don't know what you're talking about, Wolf. Western over or under 2+ return touchdowns this season. I'm gonna go with under. I'm gonna go with under. I don't know. It just seems like I would love for it to be over, but I'm gonna go with under specifically because I absolutely feel like they're gonna be rotating a lot. They're gonna be rotating a lot when it comes to who they're gonna use in the return game. It's gonna be his main job, but they do like giving Rashid Ali and a few of these other guys chances. So we'll see. But I would love it if he has 2+ return touchdowns this season. I think he could end up with 2, which is why I'm not saying over. I'm saying I don't know if I can say under 2. I think he's gonna get 2. I'm gonna leave it like this. I think he's gonna get 2. I think he's gonna get 2. Could you explain why Hollywood Brown didn't work out? Didn't work out with the Ravens. He didn't like being in our scheme. It was Greg Roman's scheme. He didn't want to be in Greg Roman's scheme. You know, he was productive when he was here. Ravens fans like to pretend that Hollywood Brown was not a productive player when he was here. He was a productive receiver. He was a very talented receiver, very productive receiver. The problem is his hands weren't great, and he would drop a lot of deep balls. And that's the aspect that pissed a lot of Ravens fans off. And the aspect where Ravens fans officially gave up on Hollywood Brown and pretended he didn't do anything was when he dropped those 3 passes against the Lions. 2 of them, at the very least, should have been touchdowns, and he dropped them. So because he dropped those passes, and then he dropped another one like 2 weeks later against the Chargers, and everyone's like, dude, what are you doing? He just kept dropping passes. So that's the aspect. That's the aspect that ultimately killed Ravens fans' opinion of him. But the reason he didn't work out in Baltimore is because it's not like he wasn't productive and he wasn't great. He just did not want to be in this system anymore. He felt like the system didn't best fit his skill sets, and he felt that the Ravens system didn't need him and they'll still be fine. So he felt he wanted to go somewhere else where his skill sets would be better utilized and, more so needed. So he personally felt he would be better off somewhere else, and they traded him to Arizona, and it worked out for us. We got Tyler Linderbaum, so that was cool. But yeah, it's just how things worked out. It wasn't like he was bad in Baltimore. He was a bad receiver. It's just he wanted to go to another system other than Greg Roman's that would better fit what he had. And I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did for our sakes because we got Tyler Linderbaum, and now we got Tyler Linderbaum. Now we got Zay Flowers, so it's all cool. You got Flowers with Bateman. Because the original duo was supposed to be Hollywood Brown and Rashad Bateman. Now the duo is Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. It works out for me. I don't think you end up getting Zay Flowers if Hollywood's still on this team. I do not think that ends up being the case. But it is what it is. Yeah. If we go 15-2, don't think we're gonna go 15-2. But actually, I don't even know. I have to see these games to really assess it. The ceiling is absolutely 15-2 for the Ravens, but we'll have to wait and see. Playoff Joker, no action Jackson. All right, man, thanks. Yeah, he's trolling. Probably, but it is what it is. Lamar does act weird in the playoffs, though, I can't lie. I spoke about this last time I was here in the live stream. It's part of it's Lamar thing, but this is a Ravens thing that's been happening for a long time. Again, I feel like we may have to have a discussion video about this or a live stream where we talk about this, but the Ravens have been choking long before Lamar stepped foot in Baltimore. I brought up the games. We choked in the playoffs prior to. We broke free. We broke free. We had a magical run. We had a miraculous play. RIP to Jacoby Jones. We broke free and won a Super Bowl. But the Ravens have been choking in playoff games far before Lamar stepped foot in Baltimore. So yeah, it's not just the Lamar thing as a whole. Lamar does have to take responsibility for his turnovers because Lamar is partly the reason as to why we've been losing some of these games. He's got to take responsibility for those turnovers, but he's not the only factor. There are other players that have turned the ball over offensively. There's a defense at times that they're either giving up plays where they're not supposed to give up plays, getting penalties and dumb decisions like the AFC Championship game, or they're just not creating turnovers at all. The fact that, Lamar's been here since 2018 and the defense has created maybe 1 or 2 turnovers. Since Lamar has been a Raven, the Ravens defense has created 2 turnovers in the playoffs. Also, Lamar has never started in enemy territory the entire time in his entire career in the postseason. He's never started an offensive drive in the opponent's territory. We don't create turnovers on defense, and we always got to start from deep inside our own territory in the playoffs. So those do play a factor. Those do play a factor. So that's an aspect that does play a factor into that as well. Lamar does play a factor in it, no question, but it's multiple things that play a factor. And this is a thing that's been happening with the Ravens before Lamar Jackson got here. It's been happening under John Harbaugh. It was happening under Brian Billick, which ultimately led to him being fired. So again, that's the case. That's just how it's been. But yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, Lamar does have to take responsibility for his turnovers, because that plays a huge factor as to why we've been down to these games. Last year, I hold the fact that we were down 21-10 is because of him. That's on him. I'm glad he had that heroic run in the second half. That was fantastic. That was the first time he turned the ball over and recovered and show up. That's what I wanted to see in the second half. Overcome the turnovers and lead the team. That's what he did. But we can't erase the fact that he had those 2 turnovers. If he doesn't have those 2 turnovers, we probably win the game. I'm not going to say we probably win the game. We probably dominate the game. The Bills defense could not stop him or the Ravens offense. We had 8 offensive possessions. 8 offensive possessions against the Buffalo Bills. 5 of the 8 offensive possessions went for 25 points. 3 of those 8 offensive possessions went for turnovers. 2 of those 3 turnovers happened in enemy territory. If those turnovers don't happen, we dominate the Bills and we head to the AFC Championship game. So Lamar has to take blame on that. But there's a plenty of aspects about why the Ravens as a whole have lost in playoff games. Oh yeah, Hollywood Brown was productive, but he did have those drops. And yeah, he turned the ball over twice. He did, yeah, and he had to take responsibility with that. Y'all would kill Hurts for such a thing. Wolf, stop assuming that all those trolls and all those people that run their mouth on social media, stop assuming every content creator does that nonsense. I'm not going to kill Hurts for turnovers as a whole if there's other aspects that play a role. Stop acting like everybody assess quarterbacks the way these trolls on social media do. I'm going to hold Hurts responsible if he turns the ball over. But I'm not going to sit back and say Hurts is the primary reason they lost. If his defense isn't stopping anybody, I'm going to say Hurts' defense didn't help him out. If receivers are dropping the ball, if A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith were dropping balls in playoff games, I'm not blaming that on Hurts. Stop assuming because of the nonsense you hear every day, the idiotic trolls on social media that talk about Jalen Hurts. Stop assuming all content creators are like that. I'm not going to hold Jalen Hurts responsible for things that are not his fault. I'm not going to blame one player for an entire team losing. It's a team game. The sooner you guys realize that, the better off you are when assessing these games. Stop assuming one player is to blame for everything. It's a team game. Turnovers are going to happen in the playoffs. Mahomes is one of the worst playoff performers. He's one of the worst Super Bowl performers in NFL history. In the first half, not worst Super Bowl in terms of all. Not worst Super Bowl performers in terms of overall. But in terms of the first half, Mahomes' first half in Super Bowls have been god-awful. We would be killing Patrick Mahomes if it wasn't for the second half that he played and the second half his defense plays. If it wasn't for those 3 rings, go bring up the numbers and look at how Patrick Mahomes has played in the first half of Super Bowls. He's god-awful. But what makes him great is he overcome the turnovers. Fun fact, Mahomes has played what? Mahomes has been in what? 5 Super Bowls? He already has, in 5 Super Bowls, he has more turnovers than Tom Brady had in 10. He's been god-awful. He's been god-awful in the first half of Super Bowls. But he finishes when he needs to. And he's got 3 rings for that. So we don't talk about those turnovers. It's a team game. Mistakes are going to be made. You can't expect a quarterback to be perfect every single time. Jalen Hurts in the playoff run, he wasn't the best against the Packers. He wasn't the best against the Rams, but he didn't put the ball in harm's way. He did what he needed to do. And when he got on the big stage in the Super Bowl, he thrived. Look what he did. Again, I know people talk about it and say his stats aren't the best and he didn't really do much. He got carried. I get it. The Packers game, he didn't really do much from a statistical standpoint. I get it. The game against the Rams, he didn't do much statistically. If it wasn't for Saquon Barkley doing what he did, who knows what happened? But he still contributed to helping them get there. He still contributed in that aspect. And people trying to take away from what Jalen Hurts did is crazy. Especially because when he gets to the big game, he shows up. In both Super Bowls, he showed up. So please stop making these wild assumptions that everybody just assess things like that. It's a team game. Just because you interact with those trolls does not mean every single person with a microphone is going to have that biased take of only blaming the quarterback as if this isn't a team game. I get you're an Eagles fan. I get you're a Jalen Hurts fan. That's cool. You probably got all the crap and you're happy and you're talking your trash because you won a ring. But please stop assuming every single content creator is going to sit back and just try to blame the quarterback or one person for everything. But then when it comes to their team, oh no, it's not this guy. It's not this quarterback. It's everybody. It's a team game. I've always been consistent with that. I'll hold Lamar Jackson accountable for his turnovers. I've done that. I've taken heat from Ravens fans for doing that. It's a team game. So please don't come here with you would kill Hurts if he did this. No, you got the wrong guy for that. You got the wrong guy for that because I've never done that. I've been up here defending Hurts too. I ain't going to kill Jalen Hurts for things he didn't do. If he turned the ball over, I'll kill him for the turnovers. I'll criticize him for the turnovers. But it's a team game. I'm not going to sit back and say Hurts is the only reason they lost the game. Now, if you get a Ryan Tannehill type of game, like Ryan Tannehill in the division round against the Cincinnati Bengals, where he literally threw the game away, 3 interceptions, because the Bengals didn't play a great game there, but 3 interceptions by Ryan Tannehill, yeah, you got to look at him and say he was the primary factor in costing them the game. He wasn't the only factor, but he was the primary factor. There's moments where you look at and you got to hold the quarterback responsible, but it's a team game. Everybody has to be held responsible in wins and losses. When you win as a team. When you lose as a team. That's sports. The same thing in basketball. If we're talking about boxing or golf or something like that, by all means, I'll talk about the individual. But we're talking about a team sport. So please don't come at me with that nonsense about you'd kill Hurts if it happened to him. But when no, you got the wrong guy. Go back to those trolls on Twitter that make those arguments about Jalen Hurts. Go back to whatever content creator that does that nonsense. I don't do that here. I'm going to hold people accountable for when they make mistakes. But I'm also going to hold a team accountable when everybody doesn't do their job or do the very best to be productive. Please don't bring that here. Oh, do not bring that here, man. Do not bring that here. Do not bring that here. You got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy for that. The Ravens don't bring the same intense 3-game preseason energy into the postseason. Kevin, very fair statement to say. And I agree with you. And I hope that they do. I really hope that they do. The fact that in the Lamar Jackson era, the defense has only created 2 turnovers, that's unacceptable. 2023, we had the triple crown. We led the league in sacks, we led the league in takeaways, and we were the number 1 scoring defense. We didn't create a single turnover in 2 playoff games that year. That's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. You've got to be able to create turnovers. As a defense, you have to be able to create turnovers, and we just couldn't do so. That's just not a good look. They know it themselves. Marlon Humphrey literally said that at the end of the day. They understand it. The message is clear. So it's up to them to do so come regular season and come playoff time. Thoughts on Tom Grossi being allowed to co-stream an NFL game on YouTube TV? I saw that earlier today. Congratulations to Tom Grossi. He's the GOAT. He deserves it. Love it. Love it. He deserves it. At some point, the NFL needs to give him a show. Let him be on television. He's that damn good. Let the Tom Grossi show actually be a program thing, okay? Let's get Tom Grossi on television. I'm serious. I want to be able to tune into Tom Grossi on television full on. Let's get him on TV. Give him a segment. Give him a segment for real. That guy's the GOAT. I didn't know we were dominating Buffalo like that. Dude, we were dominating Buffalo everywhere. Dominating Buffalo through the air, through the ground. Look at the numbers. We dominated them in every aspect but the turnovers. I said this. The Buffalo Bills defense and the Commanders defense in the division round had the same mindset. Go look at the games. The Commanders defense could not stop the Lions offense unless they created turnovers. 4 turnovers off of Goff was the only reason we were able to beat them. Jaden Daniels was great. Terry McLaurin was great. That offense was great. But we weren't going to be able to do anything. We weren't going to be able to do anything against that Lions team. We weren't going to stop that Lions offense with our weak defense. It wasn't going to happen. So the defense had to do something, and that was create turnovers. The Buffalo Bills were the same way. We had already blown them out when they came to Baltimore. They don't have answers for what we can do. They don't have answers in terms of stopping our offense. We didn't punt the ball once in that playoff game. We didn't, against the Buffalo Bills, we didn't punt the ball once. 8 offensive drives, technically 9, but one of it was a kneel down before halftime. 8 offensive drives. 5 of the 8 offensive drives were for 25 points. The other 3 offensive drives, interception, fumble, fumble. 2 of the 3 turnovers happened in Bills territory. If we don't turn the ball over, we dominate the Buffalo Bills because we're putting up 30-plus points. Their defense literally could not stop us from moving the ball. It all came down to turnovers. And if we don't turn the ball over, we win the game. It was simple as that. Same for the Lions. If they didn't turn the ball over against the Commanders, they probably dominate them, and it's a shootout, and Jaden's just going to try his best to keep up, but again, that defense will be giving up points every single drive. Both defenses came into the game knowing they had to create turnovers off of the quarterbacks and off the offensive players. They did that. 3 turnovers for the Bills defense, 4 turnovers for the Commanders defense, both advanced to the championship game. They knew what that was about. So if Baltimore just doesn't turn the ball over in these playoff games, they're going to be fine. They are going to win. But that's just it. Turning the ball over has been a problem for the Ravens in the playoffs in the Lamar Jackson era. And until they clean that up, they're not going to be winning anything. So that's how it is. Hurts is a winner. They say he's boring. Stop hating. People are going to be like that as much as they want to. At the end of the day, you can feel however you want to feel about Jalen Hurts. He's a Super Bowl champion. You don't have to look at him as an elite quarterback. You can sit back and say he's not a top 3, top 5 quarterback. Okay, he's a champion. That's all that matters. He's a Super Bowl champion. 50 years from now, 100 years from now, he's a Super Bowl champion. That you can't take that away from him. Doesn't matter if he's not the best quarterback in the league. Doesn't matter if he's not top 5. None of that matters. He's a winner. He won a championship. He will be remembered. He and that Eagles team will be remembered. And you can sit back and say, well, he didn't have the biggest It doesn't matter. He won. History remembers the winners and losers. That's how it is. It's a team game. History remembers the winners and losers. I'm not worried about Taylor Swift, man. I'm going to leave that alone. I think he threw a pick to Eli Apple. That might have been the 3rd pick that ultimately set up Cincinnati into being close to getting to field goal range. All Burrow needed to do was complete 1 or 2 passes, then they'd get into field goal range, and they kicked the game-winning field goal to advance to the AFC Championship game. So yeah, that was really Tannehill was terrible in that game, and that was pretty much the beginning of the end of Tannehill in Tennessee. Well, the Chiefs reps got fired from helping the Chiefs win. Tell like it is, my brother. It's a team game. Best team wins. That's usually how it is, or that's usually how it's supposed to be. Real cook that dude. And I'm just being honest about it. I get a lot of people just come here and think that every single content creator is just going to be pulling the whole, oh yeah, you're making excuses for your quarterback. But if it would say it's this quarterback, I don't really like trying to compare quarterbacks. At the end of the day, it's a team game. Anyone that's been in my channel has been here for years. I've gotten a lot of flack from Ravens fans when I have been brutally honest. And it's not like it's been major flack like they call me a fake fan. It's more so like, I think you're being a bit too brutal on Lamar. I've held Lamar responsible for his turnovers. I'm the one that cooked him on the first. I was the one that made that video where I was cooking him in the first half because of how poor he played. I sat back and said he was fantastic in the second half, and that's what I wanted to see from Lamar Jackson. He was great in the second half. But I said in the first half, past the opening drive, he played like a bum. He turned the ball over twice. I said a lot of things about Lamar when he's played poor in the playoffs. I've held him accountable for his mistakes. I still believe in him. That's still my quarterback. I still believe he'll win the championship. But you can't turn the ball over that way and not be criticized. It's all about cleaning it up. Baltimore knows what their problem is. They just have to figure out how to fix it. I'd rather be in our situation than Buffalo, because Buffalo's playing damn near perfect games against Kansas City and can't win. We're just hurting ourselves and turning the ball over. I feel if we clean up those turnovers, we have a clear path to the Super Bowl if we clean up those turnovers. I don't know about Buffalo. I don't know what you can do. They've played perfect games. The AFC Championship game last year, they didn't turn the ball over offensively, and they forced a turnover against Kansas City and turned that turnover into 6 points. I don't know what else they could have done to win that game. They literally been in a situation where they should have won, but 13 seconds happens. I don't know what you do if you're Buffalo. You just keep trying and just hope for the best, I guess. But at least for us, we know if we clean up the turnovers, we're probably going to win the game. That's just how it is. Anyway, guys, I have been here for over an hour. I need to call it a day. We've discussed the 53-man roster. We've spoken about it. We've given our aspect about the roster, and now it is time to call it a night. Tell them right there, we can beat everybody as long as we do not turn the ball over in the playoffs. We can be unstoppable. If we just hold on to the ball, we're gonna be fine. With the amount of talent we have on this offense, we should be able to get it done. No, I just got here. I'm sorry, couples, man. I wish I could stay a little bit longer, but I do have something to do afterwards. I wonder what Lamar saw in the interception. That one was bad. apparently, I mean, he talked about it. It was some sort of miscommunication between him and Bateman that ultimately led to it. But Bateman kind of, I think Bateman was thinking like he was cutting it. Like Lamar expected him to keep going forward and keep like running forward, but Bateman ended up running forward and cutting it. So Lamar threw it where he thought he was gonna keep moving forward, and instead Bateman like moved it towards like a corner route or something like that. So there was miscommunication between him and Bateman. But if you even look at the throw, it would have been an overthrow a little. It would have been a bit of an overthrow at the very least. If Bateman would have kept running, maybe he has a chance to make an amazing catch and get the first down there. But worst case scenario in that situation is if Bateman would have kept running, it's probably going to be an incomplete pass because he would have fought with the safety there to try to get that pass, and it could have ended up incomplete. But it is what it is. Ay. But yeah, that's just how it is. In playoffs, only Ravens defeat the Ravens. Yeah, which is why if you've watched the Bills and the Chiefs the last two playoff games they've matched up against us, they do the very basic thing of sitting back and just watching the Ravens self-destruct. That's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do. Sit back and just watch the Ravens self-destruct. Don't do anything crazy. Don't turn the ball over. Don't be too high on it in terms of trying to get the ball down the field and force it and create turnovers. You don't want to give a turnover to the Ravens and give them some momentum. Just sit back and watch the fireworks. Until Baltimore cleans up those fireworks, it's gonna keep happening. Let's see here. As I get ready to go, I'm trying to answer some of these final questions. Um, Not making 2-point conversions to try to clean the mistakes, after mistakes, trust the defense, make plays, and help the offense win. I'm tired of them going for 2-point conversions, man. I feel you should not go for a 2-point conversion unless you absolutely need to go for a 2-point conversion. Stop. Harbaugh needs to stop taking these 2-point conversions in these situations. Just let the game play out it is. Take the extra point, take the extra kick, and only go for 2 when you absolutely need to go for 2. But it's Harbaugh. He's going to do what he's going to do. She's like, as long as I get Ravens, Bills, Houston, easy path to the Super Bowl. Well, they pretty much know how they're going to face off against the Bills. For the Ravens match up really well against the Chiefs, but they know as long as the Ravens continue to self-destruct, they're not a serious threat. The moment the Ravens stop self-destructing, we're going to see an interesting matchup between them and the Chiefs. We need to try to get a first-round bye again. That's pretty much the goal for all three of those teams. Get the first-round bye, have home field advantage, and then go from there. My advice for Ravens coach: stop being scared of going into overtime. Yeah, he ain't really gonna change that decision. Harbaugh needs to take a backseat and let these players ball out. I ain't gonna get on the Harbaugh aspect today. They're treating Shedeur Sanders like Lamar. Your thoughts? Okay. I feel like I would probably make another brief discussion about that too, especially how we see it goes. It's kind of a weird situation to sit back and say Shedeur situation is similar to Lamar's situation because with Lamar, at the end of the day, despite teams overlooking him, he still was a first round pick. You know, first of all, coming into the draft, Lamar wasn't seen as a top quarterback prospect. That has to be named. They were calling him a wide receiver. They were saying I don't even know where they got the wide receiver aspect. He's never from high school or college. Even Lamar said himself, Pop Warner, high school, college, he never played receiver. So I don't know where they would have got that. Running back, I guess, because of his legs. They always try to say that with an athletic quarterback. I get that aspect, but receiver, I don't know where they got that from. Lamar said, I've never played receiver in any aspect of football. I've always been the quarterback. So I don't know where they got that aspect from. But they call him a wide receiver. They call him a running back. They said he can't throw. He was never seen as a prospect in anybody's mock chart as a guy that was going to be going as a top 10 pick or anything high like that. In fact, on people's boards, Lamar and Josh Allen were like the two lowest ranked. The people that were high was Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was seen as the most quarterback ready. He was the most NFL ready. Baker Mayfield had all the talent in the world and an attitude that just drives the locker room to want to win for this guy. So the two quarterbacks that were ranked high, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. The one that was ranked in the middle was Josh Rosen because apparently somebody liked his intangibles. Don't know how that came from, but they liked his intangibles. Then you got Allen and Lamar that were ranked at the bottom. But Allen still had all these physical gifts that people felt they can overlook the fact that he couldn't connect at all. His accuracy was terrible. His deep ball, he was overthrowing receivers by like 10, 15 yards. People felt those were mechanics that can be fixed. He's like, what, 6'6", 6'7"? He's a tall dude, a physical quarterback that has legs and can throw and a rocket arm. So people felt his intangibles can be fixed. But with Lamar, Lamar, despite the fact that he ran a pro-style offense in college, people didn't see him as a quarterback. But even with him not being viewed as a quarterback, he was still the last pick of the draft in the first round. He was the last first-round pick. So it's weird to compare it with Shedeur in terms of the draft aspect because Lamar wasn't viewed as a top prospect heading in the draft. Shedeur was. Lamar still got picked in the first round. Shedeur dropped past the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth round. Lamar got picked by an organization that seemed like they were okay with picking him and believed he could become something. Shedeur was picked by an organization that had already picked a quarterback that was two drafts. They already picked a quarterback. They already drafted. Oh my God, what am I trying to say? Back it up. Shedeur got drafted in the fifth round to a team that already drafted a quarterback 2 rounds prior to getting Shedeur. They picked Gabriel. They picked Dillon Gabriel in the third round and then picked Shedeur in the fifth round. So it's weird how that worked. I'm really fumbling my words right now because I'm just like I want to say it's so weird how that worked out that they drafted the quarterback in the third round and then drafted another one in the fifth round. It's weird how that works. So my mind is trying to process why the Browns even did this in the first place. But yeah, sorry. With Lamar, he was still drafted in the first round, even though he wasn't viewed as an NFL quarterback. It wasn't viewed as a high prospect. Shedeur was viewed as a high prospect. People had him as a top 10 pick. Some thought he would end up going to the Titans. Some said he could be the number 1 pick. But the mock drafts had him at the top. Many prospects had him as a first-round quarterback. He dropped all the way to the fifth round and got drafted by a team that just drafted another quarterback 2 rounds prior to getting Shedeur. So it was weird. Then you get to the situation in regards to how he is in training camp. With Lamar, he went to a team where he knew he wasn't going to start immediately. Baltimore wasn't planning to start Lamar Jackson, so the aspect of that is he's not going to be playing anytime soon. With Shedeur, he gets drafted to a team that's kind of confusing right now. I mean, he's also not expected to play early on, but he's also competing with a fellow rookie quarterback that was drafted before him. So it's weird how that whole situation went about. And the way he's being treated by Cleveland has been very. I know a lot of people are trying to look at this and say that they're trying to treat him a certain way, and they're treating him a certain way, and they're looking at him like this, and they're trying to break him and all this other stuff. In all honesty, Shedeur Sanders is being treated the way a fifth-round quarterback is supposed to be treated. Shedeur Sanders is being treated the exact way any fifth-round quarterback would be treated. The reality of the situation is the way Shedeur has been treated throughout training camp, throughout the preseason, the way he's been treated is exactly the way any fifth-round quarterback would be treated. The Browns are doing nothing wrong when it comes to how they're treating him because he's a fifth-round quarterback. You're treating a fifth-round quarterback like a fifth-round quarterback. The issue comes in with the fact that many believe he shouldn't have been a fifth-round quarterback. He's not a fifth-round quarterback talent. He's not a fifth-round quarterback caliber. The Browns are just going about it as if he's a fifth-round quarterback because they drafted him in the fifth round. But the issue is everyone's looking at this and saying from a talent perspective, from a skill set perspective, from what he did in Colorado, he's not a fifth-round quarterback talent. So he should not be treated like a fifth-round quarterback talent. That's where the issues are coming in. Cleveland is treating him like a fifth-round quarterback. Everyone else is looking at this and saying he's not a fifth-round quarterback talent. So when people start talking about him not really getting practice with the ones, well, normally a fifth-round quarterback that's like third or fourth in the depth chart is not going to get practice with the ones. That's the normal aspect of it. A fifth-round quarterback that's number 3 or 4th in the depth chart is not going to get a lot of snaps with the ones and twos. That's just not how things operate in the league. But when you take off that fifth-round quarterback status and you put the name Shedeur Sanders in what we saw from him in college, the expectation, the belief we have in his talent, people aren't looking at this as if, oh, a fifth-round quarterback is not getting to play with the ones and twos. They're looking at it saying, oh, Shedeur Sanders is not getting to play with ones and twos. They're treating him unfairly. When in actuality, the way the Browns are treating him is the way they treat any league, any team, any franchise would treat a fifth round quarterback. You normally don't give a fifth round quarterback a lot of looks with the ones and twos. You don't. A guy that's a third string, you don't. He's seen as the third quarterback or the fourth quarterback, and he's drafted in the fifth round. You don't give that guy a lot of snaps with the ones and twos. And when it comes to preseason games, he's not going to be out there with a starting defense. He's not going to be out there with a second string. He's going to be out there with the threes and fours. That everything the Browns have been doing when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, now they're treating this. Everything they've been doing is exactly what you would do when it comes to a third string fifth round quarterback. The problem is, many feel he should not be a fifth round quarterback. He's not a fifth round quarterback talent. He's not a fifth round quarterback caliber player. He should not be in this situation. So the way the Browns are treating him is the way any franchise would be treating a fifth round quarterback that is a third string on their roster. But this is Shedeur Sanders we're talking about. This is a guy that we saw what he was capable of in Colorado. We saw the talent, the ability to throw the football. We saw, wasn't he the most accurate quarterback in college football last year in terms of completion percentage? I mean, this is a guy that we saw him play on the big stage too, in terms of, not in terms of any playoff games, but in terms of some of these big stage games, we saw what he was capable of. From a talent perspective, everyone expected him to be a first round draft pick. So because everyone's talking about what he was pre-draft, they're looking at him now post-draft and saying, yeah, he was drafted in the fifth round, but he shouldn't have been drafted in the fifth round. Yeah, he's a fifth round quarterback that'd be third string. Normally, like any other fifth round quarterback would be the third string quarterback on a team, but he shouldn't be the third string and he shouldn't be a fifth round quarterback. So that's where the issues are coming in. So I can't really say they're treating him the way they treated Lamar because it's kind of different in those circumstances. It's really been it's been kind of very conflicting in how this has been going. Quincy's really been breaking it down perfectly. Quincy's been breaking. Shout out to him if you know who Quincy is. He's a Browns fan and a content creator. Guy creates amazing content. He's been the most objective Browns fan about this entire situation. And at the end of the day, people are gonna have to understand that what the Browns are doing. Maybe you could look at from how the leagues looked at it in terms of him being drafted there, but what the Browns are doing, you can sit back and say it's not fair that he's in this situation. You can sit back and say he shouldn't have been a fifth round quarterback in the first place. I'll agree with you. I didn't think he should be a fifth round quarterback. I thought he was going to be within the first or second round, but he got drafted in the fifth round. And the Browns, however you feel about them, the Browns are treating Shedeur Sanders like a fifth round quarterback because they drafted him as a fifth round quarterback. And the way you would treat a fifth round quarterback is the exact way Shedeur Sanders is being treated. That's just the reality of the situation. We can argue he shouldn't be in this situation because he's not a fifth round quarterback level talent. We can make those arguments. We can make those arguments. But the Browns are doing what any other franchise would do. We don't give Devin Leary first snaps with the ones and twos. When Devin Leary was here in training camp, did you give him snaps with the ones and twos like that? No. He wasn't getting a lot of snaps with the ones and twos. He's your third string quarterback in your depth chart. The only one that's going to get the ones and twos is the first and the second. The third string quarterback's not going to get a lot of snaps with the ones and twos. He may get some snaps, but not a lot. I think this whole situation got even more complicated when Kenny Pickett got hurt and he pretty much was not participating through practices. That's where the issues came, and everyone was like, "Well, since Kenny Pickett's not here, shouldn't you be giving Shedeur Sanders more opportunity? Because Shedor's not, even though he's four, he's the third quarterback practicing. Again, he would still be the third string quarterback, and you don't give the third string quarterback a lot of ones and two snaps. That's not how teams operate. The whole aspect with the Shedeur aspect is about where he is. Despite who he is as a quarterback, who he is as a talent, what he showcased in Colorado, what he put on film, how he was able to make those spectacular plays. Despite all of that, he's being treated like a fifth round cornerback. And that's where people are having the problems because they all sit back and say, he's not a fifth round talent. He's higher than that. He's not a fifth round level quarterback. He deserves better than that. But the Browns are looking at it and saying, we drafted him in the fifth round, so we're going to treat him like a fifth round quarterback. That's just the reality situation. So it's an unfortunate situation. Me personally, I would love if the Browns ultimately just moved off of Shador and he would have another opportunity somewhere else. Because I think he could definitely fight for. I mean, he would be a backup in a lot of other places while he continues to develop. But I think he would have a shot to fight for somewhere else. Though with the way the situation is right now in Cleveland with the three quarterback situation, there's a chance that he does end up on the field if things go south with Flacco as a starter. But yeah, this whole situation with Shador, um, it's the way the Browns are treating it. Now, if you want to talk about how the media's been going about it, how certain media guys have been talking about Shador, fine. But if you want to talk about that, and you want to also talk about the organization as themselves in terms of the head coach and Stefanski, in terms of how they may personally feel, if we want to get into that aspect, I can debate that with you because me personally, I don't think Stefanski's high on Shador Sanders. That was not his guy. So it's one of those things where he has to be professional and try to help the kid out as much as he can, but that's not his guy. And we know with these head coaches, if that's not their quarterback, if that's not their guy, they're not going to be too high on them. I don't think Stefanski and a lot of the coaching staff, I don't think they're high on Shador because that's not the guy they wanted. They had no choice but to draft him. A certain individual wanted him, but it is what it is. He's here now, and they have to help him develop and work him out. But I don't think they're high on him. However, he's a fifth round quarterback, and they're going to treat a fifth round quarterback the way any other team in the National Football League would treat a fifth round quarterback. So it's unfair. It's unfair and it's unfortunate that he finds himself as a fifth round quarterback because, from a talent perspective, from what he did in college, and considering the fact that this draft wasn't even a strong quarterback draft, many believe he should have been a first or second round quarterback. Instead, he was a fifth round quarterback. And because he's a fifth round quarterback, the Browns are going to treat him like a fifth round quarterback, which means he's not going to have a lot of opportunities. Now, if there's any other thing I could say is I'm kind of pissed off at Stefanski for not letting Shador Sanders run the 2 minute offense. I would have preferred if he would have done that because that's his last chance to be able to put something on film, and that could help with his development. See how he would handle a 2 minute offense. It would have been a 2 minute drive to go win the game. See how Shador Sanders handles that situation. That's plenty of film that you can use to help develop him. Some were saying they were just trying to protect the kid because he was taking a lot of hits out there. That's debatable. At the end of the day, the kid wanted to play. Let the kid go play. Tyler Huntley was going to be released, and some were saying it was to help the guy help the guy put something on film just before he gets cut to try to go, get another team. Tyler Huntley's been a starter in this league. Tyler Huntley started multiple games for the Ravens. He started a playoff game. He's been a starter for multiple teams and started games. Tyler Huntley doesn't need help getting another backup job. He'll get somewhere else. Somebody's going to pick him up. He didn't need that 2 minute drive. We know what Tyler Huntley's capable of. That should have gone to Shador to showcase on his overall development. You could have pointed to that aspect and say, here's a 2 minute offense. If he would have struggled, here's where he struggled. Here, and here. He needs to work on this. He needs to work on that. He needs to work on this. This is a 2 minute drive. Give him the opportunity. Unfortunately, he didn't get it. So I'm mad at Stefanski when it comes to that. That's what I'll look at and say, yeah, I'm mad at that. I'm mad at that aspect because he absolutely should have been able to have an opportunity to go out there and do the 2 minute drive. But it is what it is. But in terms of how the Browns are treating him in terms of playing time, playing with the ones and twos in training camp, and then playing time in the preseason, other than that 2 minute drive, which he should have played, the Browns have been treating him like a fifth round quarterback. And the fifth round quarterback doesn't get a lot of snaps with the ones and twos. The fifth round quarterback doesn't get a lot of opportunities to really showcase what he can do with the starting offense. That's just not realistic. I know a lot of people want that to be the case for him, but realistically, teams don't give the starting offense to a third string, fifth round quarterback. That's not how things operate. I know the Browns are a dysfunctional mess, but most football teams are not going to give a lot of opportunities to play with the ones and twos to a fifth round quarterback. We all believe Shador shouldn't be a fifth round quarterback. He should have been a first or second round quarterback. And if that would have been the case, we're not having this conversation because he doesn't have to be treated like a fifth round quarterback. But he was drafted as a fifth round quarterback. And the Browns are going to treat him like a fifth round quarterback, just like any team in the National Football League would do so. That's just how it works. The fifth round, third string quarterback is not going to get a lot of snaps with the ones and twos. That's just how it is. That's the reality of the situation. You can go look at any team in the National Football League. They're not giving a lot of snaps with the ones and twos to your third string quarterback. It's not how it works in the league, man. I'm sorry. We're talking about Shador not getting those opportunities, but the Browns are just looking at it as if he's their third string, fifth round quarterback. So our third string, fifth round quarterback is not going to get a lot of opportunities with the ones and twos. He may get a few opportunities, but not a lot because you have to give the most of those snaps are going to go to your starter, and then a good chunk of it is going to go to your backup. That's how it always works. So it's unfortunate. That's why I would prefer if Shador gets released, somebody else will go for pick him up, and he'll have a better chance to try to compete with somebody else for the backup role, and then more so compete for a starting job somewhere else. And as he continues to showcase his talents and abilities and develop, Cleveland from the start had 4 quarterbacks on this roster, and it looked like Shador was going to be the fourth one. And for much of this, they kept Kenny Pickett here, even though he wasn't playing because of the injury. And they still had him as the second quarterback. That's what made it worse. There's a lot that goes into this aspect. I'm only speaking on the Browns perspective here. If we want to talk about the media and how he's being portrayed and how the media is talking about him, we can go through all of that. But yeah, to answer that question, couples page, I can't say they're treating Shador Sanders like Lamar Jackson. I can't say that's the exact because it's kind of different in the circumstances and situations. Lamar Jackson was still drafted in the first round. Not to mention Lamar Jackson was a Heisman Trophy winner, so he was a Heisman Trophy winner. He had already played in the pro style offense, and he was a first round draft pick. Yeah, people were acting like he can't even throw the football. With Shador ended up being drafted in the fifth round. Even though we all debate he shouldn't be in the fifth round, he got drafted in the fifth round. The fifth round quarterback is going to get treated the way a fifth round quarterback gets treated. You cannot give Shador Sanders special treatment because of how you personally feel he is from a talent perspective. Many of us, myself included, believes he's talented. Many of us fully believe that this guy shouldn't have been a fifth round pick. But the league works the way it's always worked. They don't give favoritism to certain players. He got drafted as a fifth round quarterback, so the Browns are going to treat him like a fifth round quarterback. Had Shador been drafted in the first or second round, and they were pulling this nonsense, that's a different conversation. Shador is just stuck in an unfortunate situation. That's the aspect. He got drafted in the fifth round, and then there was another quarterback that got drafted 2 rounds before him. So they're going to put more emphasis on that third round quarterback as opposed to him. He was just stuck in an unfortunate situation. I truly hope, if it doesn't happen in Cleveland, I hope he gets an opportunity somewhere else. I really hope he does. But yeah, it's a bit of a different situation. I hope I really answered the question well for you. You answered my question. Thanks. All right, thanks. I just wanted to make sure I answered it as accurately as I can because people are trying to think that the Browns are trying to sabotage Shador Sanders and all this other stuff. That's not the case. At least for the Browns, they're not. That's not the case. They drafted him in the fifth round. If you want to go into the speculations that the league didn't want him drafted, they wanted to make an example out of him and all this other stuff, we can have that conversation later about how that goes. But in terms of the Browns and how they're doing this whole situation with Shador, they're treating him like a fifth round quarterback. That's usually what happens with the fifth round quarterback. Everything they've been doing, that's how they operate. So it's an unfortunate situation for Shador to be in, but that's just it. At the end of the day, I love the attitude he's kept throughout this entire process. You just got to deal with it. You just got to work through it. He will have his opportunity, and when he has his opportunity, I hope he makes the best of it, and I hope he showcases what he can truly do. He's gonna have his ups and downs. He's a rookie. Continue to improve. Continue to develop. And if that opportunity comes up, which could happen in the regular season, especially if the Browns aren't winning a lot of games, go out there and showcase what you can do. And once you showcase what you can do, you might get a shot to be a starting quarterback and maybe even a franchise quarterback. With that being said, I just spent 30 minutes talking about this as a whole. It is what it is. The NFL been treating elusive black quarterbacks for decades to convert them to receivers. Nothing new here. Well, Shador Sanders isn't really a highly elusive or athletic black quarterback, so it wouldn't it wouldn't work out in that aspect. In his case, it wouldn't be something they would push because he's not an athletic quarterback or an elusive or a highly elusive quarterback, so it wouldn't work out in that case. But with Lamar, they definitely tried that. I keep trying to tell people they treated Lamar like he was Terrell Pryor. They really looked at Lamar like he was Terrell Pryor and thought he would ultimately follow in Terrell Pryor's footsteps. Hell, we saw that with Malik Cunningham. He used to be a quarterback. Now all of a sudden he was a quarterback for us, and then he ends up transitioning to be a wide receiver, and he's cut now. Best of luck to him. That's just how it is. If you can't cut it, they just try to transfer you to a wide receiver. They tell you to switch positions, but you got to prove yourself. And Lamar did, and he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day. Remember the Saints and Steelers got called racist for not getting Sanders. People were throwing a lot of things out for teams passing on him. Leave it to the Cardinals to draft Josh Rosen. Yeah, they did. Made mistakes and then decided, we got to get out of this. So they drafted Kyler the very next year, and they've had Kyler ever since. Yeah, the league slash media did him. Yeah, the league slash media did him wrong like Lamar. The league and the media will have those conversations. That's where you can really look at it and say how they viewed him and what they were saying about. That's where we can go into it. But the Cleveland Browns are doing what any NFL team would do. We got a fifth round quarterback who's a rookie quarterback, and we already have another rookie quarterback in front of him that we drafted 2 rounds earlier than him. So we're going to give the fifth round quarterback the least amount of snaps because he's your third stringer. He's not going to have a lot of snaps with the ones and twos. That's just how it is in the league. So the Browns are doing what they're supposed to be doing. You can talk about how Stefanski may feel about Shedeur, how the coaching staff may feel about Shedeur, because maybe the team as a whole didn't want him, but a certain individual wanted him to be drafted. You can talk about that. But in terms of what they're doing, they're just doing what they're supposed to be doing, just like every other team. Anyway, guys, I extended this for so long. I've been here for an hour and 40 minutes. I should have left an hour ago. But that's just how it is sometimes. We can kind of lose track of time and have these discussions, which is always fun to have. But I really do have to call it a night. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys pulling up for the stream. And I appreciate the questions. I'm always here to ask these questions because we like to have these debates. We got to get this going because we know once the season kicks off and once week 1 is here, we're going to have a bunch of questions and a bunch of discussion videos and all this other stuff. So this is great practice for week 1. Anyway, guys, I'm going to let you guys enjoy the rest of your night. I am going to call it a night here, and I am going to go handle some other stuff. You guys enjoy the rest of the night. I will see you later. Be sure to stay safe, and peace out.